Imagine stepping into a house where the air feels thick. The walls seem to hum and shadows move on their own. You're not alone, but the people around you aren't exactly human, at least not anymore. This is the world Hans Holzer dedicated his life to exploring.
Holzer didn't chase ghost stories for fun. He made it his mission to document, analyze, and bring credibility to the paranormal. Some call him the father of modern paranormal investigation.
Welcome back to They're Still Here. I'm David, and joining me today is my co host, Siri.
Um, David, I think you mean Jesse.
Uh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Uh huh. Hello, everyone. Today we are diving into the life, work, and influence of Hans Holzer, one of the most prolific paranormal researchers of the 20th century. Holzer wrote over 140 books, conducted investigations across the US and Europe, and helped popularize ghost hunting. But his work also sparked debate. Today we'll explore both sides of his legacy.
Born in Vienna, Austria in 1920, Holzer was the son of Martha and Leo Holzer, a businessman. His fascination with the supernatural began early and was sparked at a young age by stories told to him by his uncle Henry. He went on to study archaeology and ancient history at the University of Vienna. But as the family was Jewish, and it was a very unsafe time to stay in Austria, they left the country for New York in 1938.
He studied Japanese at Columbia University, and after studying comparative religion and parapsychology, claimed to have obtained a PhD. And at a school called the London College of Applied Science, which has never been validated. He went on to teach parapsychology at the New York Institute of Technology. His investigations focused on haunted houses, unexplained phenomenon, and historically significant locations.
Let's start with one of Holzer's most famous cases, the Amityville Horror. In January of 1977, Holzer and spiritual medium Ethel Johnson Myers entered 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. Myers claimed that the house had been built over an ancient Native American burial ground and that the angry spirit of a Shinnecock Indian chief, Rolling Thunder, had possessed the previous occupant, Ronald DeFeo Jr., driving him to murder his family. Photographs taken at the scene reveal curious anomalies, such as halos appearing in the supposed images of bullet marks made in the original 1974 murders. Holzer's claim that the house was built on Indian sacred land was, however, denied by the local Amityville Historical Society, which pointed out that it was the Montucket Indians, not the Shinnecocks, who had been the original settlers in the area. Holzer went on to write several books about the subject, both fiction and nonfiction.
Which I always found that very fascinating about how they believed that the house and everything else was haunted and everything was like all the anomalies and everything else that occurred in this home was due to Indian presence.
Right.
Or they like to say maybe the land was cursed. Or I know I've heard there's several different things that they've talked about that's the possibilities of the reasoning behind the house. But it's just fascinating about everything that actually ties in.
Right. And there for a long time, especially during the Satanic Panic era, um,
Oh,
there were
very
a,
much so on that.
there were a lot of things that were attributed to Native American burial grounds, and it was always an Indian spirit or a Native American spirit, and it's like 9 times out of 10, it's really not what it is.
Hmm.
That happens a lot, and for those that don't know about the killings that happened at 112 Ocean Avenue, basically what happened was in November of 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. went room by room and shot and killed 6 members of his family while they slept. And then in 1975, the Lutz family moved in after that.
Yeah.
So basically, kind of what happened at the haunting in Amityville, the alleged haunting. Um, they're saying that they had a priest come in to bless the home for them, and according to George Lutz, an unseen entity slapped the priest in the face during the service and told him to get out.
Yeah.
And then the family still moved in. I don't know about you, but
Makes
if
me
a,
wonder how cheap was that house?
if a priest gets bitch slapped in front of me, I'm not moving in.
No. Hell no.
Like,
Pardon the language,
negative.
but no.
Yeah, I'm not doing
No.
that. And it's just wild to me.
That they actually went to that point
Yeah,
and
that
still,
they
yeah.
still did it.
They're like, oh, well, like I said, that's the reason why I asked, how cheap did they get this home?
Exactly. So I
I
think.
mean, I know that they were told about the
Let me
murders
see.
and everything else, but it really makes you wonder how cheap really was it for them to be like, it was such a good enough deal. Oh, well, the fact that it just, like, took out its aggressions on a preacher, but we're just normal people. It should be fine.
Right. Let's see here.
And how long did that last? What was it, 28 days before they
28
finally
days.
ran out? Yeah, before they left that house, like yelling and screaming.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
December. Here we
I'm
go.
good.
So they bought the house for $80,000, right? And much of the DeFeo family's furniture remained in the house and was included for $400 as part of the deal.
Still, it cracked
So
me up.
you got murder furniture. You got murder furniture for 400
Yeah.
bucks and you're like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Was it steam cleaned?
At this point, I don't
Sorry,
know.
dark humor just comes out from
Man,
time to time.
like
But yeah, because that's residual energy. I mean, I don't care what you say, anything like, because that's trauma right there. That's
yeah,
the
that
most traumatic event that you could ever see. It doesn't matter if the guy was possessed or something in his head was telling him to do it or anything around that.
right.
All that, I mean, even the energy of the action that happened to, I mean, you like you said, the furniture was still there. Was there blood on the furniture?
Probably. I mean,
I
let's
mean, all
let's
that
be
just
honest
travels
here. I
over.
mean, I'm hoping that like the mattresses weren't there and stuff like that, right? Because I don't know. Like I have no idea what would be there. Still, I assume that would have been collected.
I hope so.
And so, but the one thing to keep in mind about the story of the Lutzes is it is widely regarded as a hoax. Um,
Hmm.
you know, they claimed that there were odors in the house that came and went. There were sounds. The front door would slam shut in the middle of the night. Cold spots. Uh, George Lutz claimed to see green slime oozing from the walls, which I'm assuming he was talking about ectoplasm, basically. He saw a
That would be my
demonic
guess.
pig like creature with red eyes staring at him and witnessed his wife transform into an elderly woman. And it's like there's so many things that happen. Like I'm not one of those that says, "Oh, well, it's not true because it's unbelievable," right? But because of some of the things that have happened surrounding it,
Yeah.
and the fact that uh, William Weber, the defense attorney for Ronald DeFeo Jr., claimed that he and George Lutz sat down and fabricated this entire story. His
Yeah.
exact quote was, "I know this book's a hoax. We created this horror story over many bottles of wine."
Yeah.
So, there's no real proof one way or another at this point. But I feel like that's something that is very important to discuss on here and to make sure that, we're transparent about.
Yes.
And another one that Holzer investigated was the Borley Rectory in England, often called the most haunted house in England. He studied reports of ghostly apparitions, moving objects, and eerie sounds, combining historical research with psychic input. And the Borley Rectory was a house located in Borley, Essex, famous for being described as the most haunted house in England by psychic researcher Harry Price. It was built in 1862 to house the rector of the parish of Borley and his family. The house was badly damaged by a fire in 1939 and demolished in 1944. Now,
That's just
go ahead.
it's just amazing all the stuff that happened, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the earliest paranormal events at the Borley Rectory actually supposedly occurred in 1863. And I mean, it was built in 1862, so only a year later.
Yeah.
They remember having heard unexplained footsteps within the house. In 1900, four of Bull's daughters, Bull was, yeah, he was the original owner, Reverend Henry Dawson Ellis Bull, saw what they thought was the ghost of a nun at twilight, about
Oh,
40
wow.
yards from the house. And they tried to talk to it, but it disappeared as they got closer.
I've seen pictures of the place and
Yeah.
everything before it was damaged and everything, but
Mm-hmm. It
it
was
was a beautiful
beautiful.
place.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah, it was
Gothic
just
revival
beautiful.
style. I mean,
Hmm.
I love that style.
And that's what kills me. It's okay, not to sound stereotypical,
Mm-hmm.
but anytime you see homes that have either that old Victorian or the Gothic look or anything else like that, usually something is always sinister behind
Yeah, right.
that. That's what you see in movies, at least. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I always loved about a lot of places that I've gotten to research about and find out about is I love the architecture that's built into a lot of these places. I mean,
Almost
everything
definitely.
from Borley to, I mean, just prime example for us locally dealing with
Mm-hmm.
Waverly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have a soft spot for the architecture of these places.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, this is just a beautiful place, and I wish it was still standing. I understand, places get damaged, um,
Yeah.
but I just wish that there was a way to save it. Right? I absolutely love that house. I mean, it's just, if you guys get the chance, look up the Borley Rectory.
Yes.
It is beautiful. I would love to have a house built like that.
Well, well, when it comes down to all the locations that we're talking about, we can't forget about Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana. It's known as a hotspot for paranormal activity. Holzer documented multiple ghost sightings, focusing on the tragic history of the plantation and its former inhabitants. Morrow's Plantation is a historic home and former antebellum plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, in the United States. Built in 1796, it is often reported that 10 murders occurred in the house, but historical records only indicate the murder of William Winter. He was shot out on the front porch of the main house, and according to the legend, staggered or crawled up the stairs, but collapsed dead on the 17th step. There's now a spirit who repeatedly walks, staggers, or crawls up the stairs and stops on the 17th step. There are a variety of legends surrounding the Myrtles. The house is reputably built over an Indian burial ground, and the ghost of a young Native American woman has been reported. A mirror located in the house reportedly holds the spirit of Sarah Woodruff and two of her children. According to the custom, mirrors are covered after death, but legend says that after a poisoning of the Woodruffs, this particular mirror was overlooked. The uncovered mirror reportedly trapped the spirits of Sarah and her children, who are occasionally seen or leave handprints in the mirror. The plantation is also reportedly haunted by a young girl who died in 1868, despite being treated by a local voodoo practitioner. She supposedly appears in the room which she died and has been reported to practice voodoo on people sleeping in the room. Now, I don't know about you, but that is creepy.
Oh, most definitely. You know, a ghost
all the legends
voodoo.
and lore, all the legends and lore coming from anything in Louisiana is always just like, it's up there. It really is.
Right.
The stories and legends and lore is just, so good. The books write themselves.
Oh, yeah. Louisiana has got such a storied history as it is. On top of that,
very much so.
It's very spiritual in nature down there from everything that I've read about Louisiana. Like everything, you know, whether you're talking about the Creole culture that's down there or even the voodoo culture that's down there, right? Because people don't realize voodoo is a religion. It is.
Yes, it is.
It really is. It's not just, you know, what you see in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
But the interesting thing is you brought up the mirror that holds the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and two of her children, right?
Yes.
That actually ties into probably the most well-known of the Myrtle's supposed ghosts, right?
Yes.
There's a claim as a ghost named Chloe, who is reportedly a slave owned by Clark and Sarah Woodruff. Now, versions of the legend have Chloe listening in at keyholes to learn news of Clark Woodruff's business, dealings, or for other purposes. And one day after she got caught, either by Clark or Sarah, one of her ears was cut off and she wore a green turban to hide it. Now, supposedly, Chloe baked a cake for one of the two daughters that contained extract of boiled and reduced oleander leaves, which are extremely poisonous. And the reason that she did that was to get work back inside the house, basically to make them sick so she could come in and take care of them, right?
Yeah.
And there was a maid who was getting the favor of the mistress, right? She ended up becoming a suspect, with some saying that she was getting revenge on the Woodruffs and some saying that she was attempting to redeem her position by curing the family of poison, right? So basically, she was sitting there trying to make things better, but then she became a suspect, right?
Yeah.
Now, according to legends, Chloe's plan backfired. Only Sarah and her two daughters ate the cake, not all of them, like they were supposed to. And they all died from the poison. And then supposedly Chloe was hanged by the other slaves and thrown into the Mississippi River, either as punishment or to escape punishment by Clark Woodruff for harboring her. Basically, the slaves hanged her and threw her into the Mississippi River to either punish her or to escape punishment themselves because they were harboring her,
Yeah.
right? And so that's something I don't know enough about personally, about especially Southern history during that time, or the history of slavery. Like, I know
I
they
mean,
were
that's the
treated
hard part.
terribly,
There's
don't
not
get me wrong,
a
right?
lot
But
of
I don't
documentation that we're
know
going to be able to
personally
find when it comes down to that.
um, of any stories where it's like, well, if you punish them, I won't punish you, right?
Right,
So I
right.
don't know. There's no record of a Chloe ever being at the plantation.
Right.
So it's one of those things. This is one of those things, kind of like with the Resurrection Mary story or the Lady of White Rock Lake, where you just kind of attribute a name to the story, right?
Right.
And so it's you got to take some of these legends with a grain of salt. And I know that the Myrtles plantation themselves really relies on ghost tourism. That is a huge thing for them. They're constantly advertising for the ghosts, right?
Right.
Which I love. I love that. I think it's pretty cool. However, you run into situations where it's like, okay, well, now you're going a little bit too far on these. Let's tone it down because it goes from, kind of cool to kind of cheesy really fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to go to the Myrtles plantation, though. That is one of the ones that's on my list for places to go spend some time at. Because I believe if you go there, I think that you can rent a room and you can stay, things like that.
Right.
Yeah, so I would absolutely love that.
That would be very cool to experience. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, other than, seeing if you can hear or notice any hauntings, but also just being in that region is always
Right.
nice.
Well, that and walking through the history that's there.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, the Myrtles plantation would be absolutely phenomenal to experience just to begin with. And you walk through these old plantation homes and you're literally walking through history, and that's something for me that's just second to none.
Yeah.
But in addition to all of these that we've listed, Hans Holzer also examined haunted schools, hospitals, and churches, and he even investigated cases of alleged demonic possession, though he approached those with caution and emphasizing research over sensationalism, which is something that we here at PPRG love.
100%. Holzer developed several theories about ghostly activity. One of his main ideas was that ghosts were, according to him, imprints left in the environment which could be picked up by sensitive people. Spirits were intelligent beings who could interact with the living, while stay behinds were those who found themselves earthbound after death.
Holzer suggested that not all hauntings are the same. Some are residual, some intelligent, and some may even be connected to psychic sensitivities in humans.
Holzer was particularly interested in cross cultural and historical aspects of hauntings. He argued that understanding the history of a place and its occupants often explained the nature of the paranormal phenomenon reported.
Importantly, he combined psychic methods with historical research, interviews, and sometimes technological tools, which made his work more systematic than some of his contemporaries, which personally I think is pretty cool. Like, he was really the first one to kind of create the idea of the modern ghost hunter, right? Where you're
Yeah,
combining all of these things with trying to do the research and trying to find an answer.
which is, I mean, amazing because of, well, how far he came, like all the different things he dealt with, and everything he experienced on top of, like, just everything he's learned. I mean, it's very fascinating.
Exactly. And it's like not only that he learned, but also that he created. I mean, he created kind of the structure that we follow even today. Whether that's with, the way that we research, the way that we investigate, the way that we perform these tasks, right? Like, even introducing the idea of using a psychic medium or using, um, you know, the idea of parapsychology in paranormal research, when before the two were really separate, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, even his theories, like what you said. Oop, I just smacked my. I apologize to the listeners. I just smacked my microphone.
Oops.
Sorry about yours. But, his whole idea that you brought up were, the three different types of paranormal entities, right? The idea that
Yeah.
ghosts were imprints in the environment, right? That were picked
Yeah.
up by sensitive people, while spirits were intelligent beings who could interact. And then you had the idea of stay behinds, right? So you
Hmm.
had ghosts were basically imprints in the environment, right? So it was more, a ghost is more of a feeling, right? It's more of a vibe, and it's like I can pick up on it, but there's just something there, right? And then you
Yeah.
have the idea of spirits, which is what you think of when you think of a ghost, right? It's something
100%.
that can
Yes.
communicate with you. But then I like the idea of stay behinds basically representing the residual haunting, right? It's
That was what was left behind.
yeah, it's just
So
well, it's not so much that's
it's,
left behind.
well,
Those were
they
the
were
ones who,
earthbound
yeah, those are the ones that
after
found
death.
themselves
Yeah.
earthbound after death,
So they
right?
never got to cross on.
Exactly. And sometimes they don't realize they're dead. Now,
No.
although I may be wrong in that, I'll admit that because when you read that, really, the stay behinds aren't really residual when you think about it because they were just humans. They were people who found themselves earthbound after death. So if you
Yes.
think about it, they just don't know they're dead. However, they may still be able to interact with the living, which would still make
Because
them
that
intelligent.
ties into, yeah, which also ties into some of the other haunt stories and everything where um it's kind of like dealing with the hitchhikers or dealing with anything else that you just see
Right.
something in your everyday work, not realizing that that person's not supposed to be there.
Right.
You think it's a real person, but it's not.
Right.
So,
Well, they're
like, why is that person wearing outdated clothing from the 70s or
right. You
something
know.
pertaining to that?
And I'm just gonna say, is that a healthy dose of foreshadowing for our Halloween episode? I think it
It's a
might be.
possibility.
I don't know. I guess y'all will have to keep an ear out and be listening for something.
Dun dun dun. Holzer's influence is undeniable. He popularized ghost hunting, trained future investigators, and brought attention to parapsychology as a field.
But skeptics criticized him for relying heavily on psychics and anecdotal evidence, arguing his methods lacked scientific rigor. Still, his books remain influential, and many investigators today cite him as a pioneer. Now, one thing that I did find actually listed on his Wikipedia page for Hans Holzer, there are uh, some statements about the reception of his investigations, right? For
Yes.
instance, Holzer's endorsement of psychics in ghost hunting was criticized in an article for the Journal for the Society for Psychical Research, right? So SPR. which cast considerable doubt on the objectivity and reliability of his work as a whole.
Yeah.
And Holzer himself was a proponent of psychic archaeology, right? Which is
Yes.
a loose collection of practices using paranormal phenomena to problems in archaeology, right? So basically using paranormal phenomena to try to explain archaeology and try to help deal with the past, right? And that's been widely criticized as pseudoscience.
Yeah.
Um, Joe Nickel, for instance, has written that Hans Holzer did not provide verification for some of his claims and that he credulously accepted spirit photographs, anecdotal reports, and other doubtful evidence. Nickel also made comments that the mediums Holzer endorsed, Ethel Myers and Sybil Leek, offered unsubstantiated and even unverifiable claims or information that can be gleaned from research sources or from knowledgeable persons by cold reading, right? Which is basically like what you see when you go to see like a mentalist, right? Where they're doing a cold reading where they're just fishing for that information, right?
Yeah.
And so there's, just like in every situation, when it comes down to someone that studies this, they're always going to find a reason to say this guy is not worth listening to. However, like you said, his influence is undeniable. He has influenced such a large group of people to come out and say, hey, let's go take a look. I mean, hell, I'm one of those people. I absolutely love his work. So you can't say that he's completely, off the rails. You can't say that he's wrong in every way. He did a lot of good things, but just like everything in this quote unquote pseudoscience, it's impossible to say that everything is going to be right or everything is going to be wrong.
Right.
Hans Holzer dedicated decades to studying the unseen world. Whether you fully believe in his work or not, he truly did shape the modern paranormal investigation.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, you never know who's still here.
That's right. And don't forget to give us a quick follow and a share on this show. Be sure to check out our link tree in the show notes below. Stay curious, stay safe, and we will see you soon. My name is David. Thank you so much for tuning in to They're Still Here. Be sure to follow us on all our social media and join our Discord. Check our link tree for all of our links. Our theme is SCP-X7X64, Kevin MacLeod, Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Stay curious, stay safe. We will see you soon.